Pound. We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Will you please stand for the pledge of the flag? Pledge of allegiance. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Here.
Amber Brown. Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
Gary Farley. Renee Curtis. Here. And Zane Cantrell.
Present. You have before you the minutes of the last meeting, which was January the 12th. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes?
Move to be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion, have a second. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Yes. And Zane Cantrell.
Yes, they are approved. Okay, the first item we have is a request by Lucas Nemeth, and this is a request for a side yard setback from 10 foot to 5 foot. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2022-2 involves a property located at 2696 Barfield Road. It's a request for variance relief of 5 feet from the side yard requirement of 10 feet for a structure located in the RM Medium Density Residential Zoning District. And this is the property in question. The structure itself has been built since, I believe, 2005 or 6. And that's when the principal structure on the property was built. The applicant indicates that there is an encroachment of a sunroom along an adjoining property line, which adjoins his relative's property, who has no issue with the variance. But the applicant's wanting to correct the encroachment before, to correct it before the future property owners run into any issues. The site itself is not unique. It does not present any challenges that would cause someone to not be able to build a structure that meets the setbacks. However, and that this is a self-created situation. However, there are several other criteria for variance that the application does meet. We did not receive any calls regarding this request. We posted a sign on the property and sent out notices. And this is the driveway. So it's hard to see them from the road. I did not drive all the way up, but this is from our pictometry, and you can see the proximity of the structure to the property line. There's always a little bit off with the aerials, but it kind of gives you an idea of how close it is. And the applicant just provided a plan showing where the existing house is and how far off of the property line.
Is this part of the original structure?
I believe it is, but the applicant is here who can answer that. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Just give us your name and any additional information you want to share about this.
My name is Luke Namath, and it's my property at 2696 Barfield Road, and I actually live at 4557 Sharpsville Road now. I've moved, and I've requested this variance because I became aware about 5 years ago. I tried to trade some property to my neighbor to the north. Rick Dew was his name. He's since moved, but I tried to trade him some road frontage in exchange for his field in the back that was next to my garage to the north, and we never followed through with it. But during that process, I was made aware that my sunroom on the south side of my house was only 5 feet off the property line instead of 10. So when it came time to list my house for sale in December, I noted that there was an encroachment on that side setback. And so the new buyers, or maybe their agents, wanted the property line moved, or wanted that dealt with a surveyor. I proposed a variance because I think that this is a perfect opportunity to use a variance, because it would leave the property line straight. But I did agree, if I didn't get the variance, to move the property line just right there at the sunroom. And I want to hand out what that would look like.
Just hand it back here and we'll see that those get to everybody.
Okay. I've got copies for everyone.
Yeah.
How many more do you need? How many more do you need?
Pardon?
How many more do you need?
That's all.
That's all,
That's
okay.
plenty.
Okay, so what I'm showing there is what the property would look like if I moved the property lines, and it would be a 5-foot by 15-foot dog leg in the property, basically. And so if either property owner ever wanted to build a fence, it would just be really unattractive. And so there is already a new owner. They've already purchased the property. I'm here after closing. I'm just trying to make this, I just want the new owner to start with a clean slate so that they don't have, so they don't have a setback violation. I actually showed the realtors back in the subdivision behind me, and I didn't bring copies because I don't want to cause problems for anybody, but there are lots of houses back there that are right on the property line. I mean, they're like right on it, not 5 feet off. So I know it's not that unusual, but I just wanted to leave the new property owners with a clean slate so they didn't have to worry about this.
Did you build this house new?
I did, yeah.
So you've known about this for 5 years, and we're just now talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, sir, I built the house in 2005, and I didn't realize that there was an encroachment. There were never any issues with any inspections. I didn't realize that there was an encroachment.
Well, I may have misunderstood you, but you said you found out 5 years ago that it was too close.
I did, yeah, I did find out 5 years ago, but I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know there was.
In our case, a self-created situation is hard.
Yeah.
For us, if you have other options. But, so this sunroom is not an addition that was added to the home later?
No, it was built originally with the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question. Do you own the property at 2700 Barfield Road?
I don't. My brother and sister-in-law own it, and my sister-in-law is here to speak in favor of the variance because they were gracious enough to be good neighbors to me and also to the new property owner to consider changing the property lines if that was necessary, but they really don't want to do that, and I really don't want to have them do that. It would be very unattractive. I know the county frowns on flagged lots and changes in property lines for soil sites and things like that if they aren't necessary, and in this case, it's not necessary. A straight line.
How long have you lived there?
I've lived there for I lived there for 16 years, sir.
Pardon me?
I lived there for 16 years.
16 years? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And this was the way it was when you first bought it, or did you add this on?
No, this is original.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So how did you close this with a violation? How did the survey and the property get closed already with a violation?
I agreed to apply for a variance or move the property line if I needed to. So they said they would, agree to that, so.
How wide is that piece of property
Over
at
here
that
to your
location?
left.
Excuse me?
How wide is the property
The property is
from north boundary to south boundary
It's
at that
100
location?
It's 100 feet wide, and I have a detached garage on the north side. And what I found later is that the detached garage could have been 5 feet off the property line because it's a secondary structure, I think, but it's actually 10 feet off. So that side's right. Unfortunately, the other side with the sunroom is attached to the main building, and therefore it's the one that should have been 10 feet off, and the garage could have been 5 feet off, is my understanding.
And both the garage and the house were built at the same time?
They were, yes, sir.
Any other questions? Joe?
You built everything yourself?
Yes, I built it myself, yes.
Yes, okay.
I just didn't realize that it was
Any other
so
questions?
close.
Thank you. You may be seated. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing at this time for anyone who would like to come forward and speak on this request. You give us your name.
Yes, sir. My name's Farah Namath. I live at 2700 Barfield Road. I'm in with the variance because I really don't want to make our property uneven and ugly. And we had talked about building a fence, so I'd really like for it to just go straight back, so I'm here for the variance.
You're in favor of it? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Any further comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I've got one comment. This is really not a self-created, it's created by the people that built the house, so I'm probably going to vote against it.
Making a motion?
I make a motion that we deny it.
Have a motion that be denied. Do we have a second?
Second it.
Motion died because of a second. Do we have another?
Second.
You're going to second it. We have a second to it. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
and Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item of business we have is a request by Richard Reeves. This has to do with the temporary special exemption for the Borough Pit, which has been working out there for some time. What do you have on it now?
Thank you. Application 2022-3 involves the property located in the vicinity of 950 Jefferson Pike, and it's a total of 224 acres. They are seeking a temporary special exception approval for the Borough Pit with relief from the setback and area requirements for Borough Pits in the RM zone. And the applicant is simply asking to renew the existing permit along with the conditions that are in place. We have seen this application since 2012, and every 9 months the applicant appears before you and asks for a renewal. We did receive a phone call regarding concerns about the reclamation of the site, but That was just one call. We had a couple informational calls, but we've recently changed our public notice requirements from 500 to 1,000 feet. So people that weren't originally notified during the first applications, they got a notification, so they called and asked what was going on. We posted 3 signs on the property, and the engineering department and John Cortez, our stormwater inspector, has been monitoring the job and the progress of the job, and he's here to answer any questions about what's happening at the site and your experience. However, there is, we had spoken with the county engineer who works with John, and we would like to just add a condition that before the effective date of this permit, that the applicant, the owner, the operator of the Borough Pit, as well as county engineer Greg Brooks and other county officials, schedule a meeting to sit down to talk about these conditions, to make sure that everything's, still in process and will be addressed, continued compliance, and that's, all I can offer right now. John, would you like to address some of the issues?
Sure. Well, on January 28th, I paid a site inspection visit, and during that time, there was very little to no activity going on since we had just had a rain event. And since I've been going out there, the contractor has been making an effort to really stabilize the areas. Unfortunately, with the elements and that much of an exposed area, it's been very difficult to get adequate stabilization. And so with the effort that he's making, I can't cite him in violation because he's making an effort to adhere to the requirements. And we've been trying over and over. The main thing is to seed and straw the area as much as possible. Unfortunately, the ground is not receiving that, and it's just been a continued effort. And at this point, the contractor has acquired some mulch, and they've been bringing it on site, and so he's been spreading it out there, and we're realizing that this is a much better improvement. And so after this visit, we made an after my visit, I went ahead and recommended that from here going forward, there needs to be a much more aggressive effort to go ahead and start stabilizing these areas on the back end. I know that they're trying to provide, their main effort is providing soil for the landfill, but we realize also that he needs to go ahead and take a more aggressive effort to go ahead and remediate those areas that have been uncovered. So if you all renew his application, we can go ahead and I can enforce that on the back end going forward with my inspections to make sure that there's more coverage every time I come to the site.
I have a question. I don't have his original application in front of me. What's the timeline for did we set for his remediation of?
Well, there's a couple conditions, but the condition that's still effective is that within 6 months after completion of the mineral extraction or after termination of the permit, the restoration plans shall be completed by the property owner and the extraction excavation permit shall be void.
So would you prefer that the condition we put on it be a timeline after he's through digging an area? We don't wait till the end of the period, we give him so many weeks to remediate that specific area? Is that what you're asking us?
Yeah, well, he has to have it in satisfactory or 75% stabilized before he's finished. But as he's been making the effort, I've been going over and monitoring, and every time I've gone out there, there's been seed and straw down, so I know he's making the effort. Unfortunately, it's not being received into the ground. So from this point going forward, we have to get that grass to grow. If he has to get more guys over there, I don't know, I can't tell him what to do, but there has to be a more concerted effort to get those areas stabilized, because if he has to go over it 2 or 3 times, or maybe invest in more seed, more straw, to try to get it and work that if he has to bring in, even in a way, maybe equipment to soften the dirt, till it, or whatever, to get the seed to fall in and grow. Some of the areas are really looking plush. Unfortunately, not everything that he's dug up already has full coverage, although, like I said, the effort is being made. And based on that, I can't cite him for violation. He's not neglecting it. It's just Mother Nature's not cooperating.
Is it poor ground?
It's just really hard clay, and because they dug down as much as they could and hitting stone, and I don't know, unless I absolutely walk the entire area again, I don't know how much there is ground between ground and stone, but on some of these aerials that you can see, there's definitely a lot of rock, and it may require, like I said, right now it seems to me like since he's brought this mulch in, it's starting to work a lot better for coverage. And so I told him that I think it's probably the way to go, and he thinks it's the best way to go, and they're bringing in truckloads of mulch.
Just for a clarification, when we hear his application like we're doing now, is what you're asking us to make more conditions, or are you saying this is something that you're just following up on?
Yeah, I'll leave that part up to y'all, but I think personally from my inspections that this is probably one of the projects that has taken a lot longer to stabilize. So if you all renew the process, then I can't make up what to do next. I just know that there has to be a more assertive effort now to go back and make it.
Weather that we've had this year, wouldn't you say that this is a pretty hard time for reclamation?
Yes. Yes, and I can just qualify it this way through my experience. We've had more concentrated rain events, not that they've lasted longer, it's just that every time it rains, it's a heavy rain, and that pushes the project back. And so when you have that, plus in the summertime, when it does get dry, it blows, and because that's such an open field.
But for the past year, we've had these downpours like I have never seen before.
Right.
I know it's been at our house. I've tried to reseed, the seed goes off, it washes off.
Yes. I mean, it just.
I remember us having the same conversation at one of the other times that we did the renewal of the permit. Was, well, it's been raining, so we haven't been able to do this. So I don't know what, I'm trying to think of how we would put a condition that would satisfy your needs. I don't know what it needs to say.
And I have a question. Is the mulch going on top of the seed and straw? Is that what's holding it down? Because I don't see how seed comes up over mulch.
The application now, because the straw doesn't provide the weight to keep the
Right,
seed
it
in
just
and
blows
blows it away.
away,
So
yeah.
this mulch is actually a heavier barrier to keep that seed in. And
Still going to have the problem of the mulch washing away just because of the weather itself?
it hasn't yet.
Hasn't yet?
And I've had 3 inspections already with them applying the mulch. And so each time I've come back, the mulch is sitting there. So it is having coverage, and we're just waiting now because it just depends between the rain and the seed coming up and grass. We're just waiting to see what it's doing. But I'm happy that the ground is being covered, and I know that there's seed underneath it.
I'm going to ask this, but it may be cost prohibitive, but is there areas where sod is a better answer?
I don't. It depends on how well the ground picks up, but I would think, like you said, I think it's a cost issue. And I don't, I can't tell them what they can do or can't do as far as that is concerned. I think that would be maybe in that last measure. But right now, if we can try, they're getting, I think they're getting a good price on the mulch. I'm not sure what they're paying for, but I've seen truckloads in there. And so as long as it's covering the ground, then we just wait and see what happens with the seed.
Are they putting the topsoil that was originally taken off back?
No, all that topsoil is taken over to a supply area for the landfill. And they haven't been bringing anything to cover the surface with it other than just what they're using now as the mulch.
Mike has a question.
I have a couple things. One is the property to the northwest corner there, which appears to be the largest or deepest borrow area, is parcel 31.08, and that is owned by the Rio Barro LLC, according to my tax records here. That is not on your application other than the name of the limited liability corporation. It is not listed as a parcel and probably should be. And then, obviously, there's a history here of 15 previous applications, so I'm coming into this at a later time than the rest of the group here. But the side yard setbacks are required of 50 feet, and that borrow pit at parcel 3108 is not complying with that setback.
Are you talking about the area with the water in it right now to the?
Yeah, that parcel right there.
Yeah, that was, I
Listed on
believe
the
that was traded with the septic field for that subdivision, I believe, and Danielle, you would know.
Right, and we're still waiting for the plat of, I think this was Lot 69 originally, this step lot, to remove the step lot designation and show it on the new location.
Right.
And that condition has not been met, but they're still within the time frame. And I'm kind of confused, Mike, because we did list both of the parcel numbers, and I know that Mr. Goodman submitted 2 applications for each parcel number.
Yeah, parcel 31 is the majority of that parcel there, right there. Parcel 31.12 is the big parcel on the other side of the subdivision, right where your pointer was. Right, no, right there.
Part of the original application.
Yeah, the Rio Barro LLC parcel is 31.08.
Okay.
Mr. Goodman, would you come forward?
I just want to make sure the application's correct going forward.
Application. Do you want to see the application, Mr. Curtis?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to see the application that's
I
filed, Mr.
have a
Curtis?
copy right here.
Okay, well, the application that we filed, there were 2 pages listing the applicants. There was one for Joan Reeves and W. Richard Reeves that listed parcel 31.00 and 31.12.
Yep.
And then there was a second page one that was listing Rio Barro, it was listing parcel 31.08, which is owned by Rio Barro.
It's just not on my paperwork that I was provided, so.
Okay. Would you like what I filed,
No,
sir?
I trust you. I just want to
Okay.
make sure
Certainly.
I just want to make sure all the ducks are in a row. That's all.
I share that desire.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Ted Goodman. Do we want to, can we go on to the?
Oh, my apologies.
That's all right. I'm Ted Goodman. I represent the applicants in this matter, Joan Reeves and his wife, Richard Reeves. If you would please proceed to the next slide. This is a request for renewal of the special exception for borrow pits. We are requesting renewal on the same terms as the most recent approval, which was June of 2021, which allows the Reeveses to sell clay to the adjoining Republic site. If you proceed to the next slide. I guess go back, I was moving ahead of you.
Oh, my.
It's the 215.66 acre Reeves property on East Jefferson Pike, which is directly adjacent to the Republic property, and the 9.11 acre Rio Barrow property. Next slide, please. This is the property survey that we've all become pretty familiar with. Up here at the top, that's East Jefferson Pike. This is the Republic property. This is the Riverwalk subdivision, and the areas and hatch marks are the areas that have been approved for excavation that we're asking to have that renewed. Next slide, please. This does not expand or extend the life or scope of the landfill. Normally, the landfill obtains clay from other sources, which require extensive dump truck trips across the public roads. This merely allows the landfill to obtain the clay, taking it directly across the fence line without going on the road system. Next slide. This will take about 50 dump truck trips a day off the road, and that would prevent about 60,000 dump truck trips over the life of the project, which preserves the roads, reduces the possibility of traffic accidents, and reduces congestion. Next slide. The Reeveses have made a number of commitments, which they reaffirm and will continue to honor all of their prior commitments to this board, to the county, and to their neighbors, and all of those are memorialized in writings on file with the Planning Commission. Next slide. Some of those are that the Reeveses are only excavating from 5 acres or less at a time, and after the excavation is complete, they will be reseeding and restoring the property. And there's been a lot of talk about the efforts at that. The Reeveses have encountered some challenges with that due to some of the weather issues, as well as the straw blowing away. As Mr. Cortez mentioned, it's been pretty successful using the mulch, and it's been very successful. Mr. Reeves will talk about that a little more, but what they do is they put the mulch down, they put the seed down, and then they run a bulldozer over it to pack it down. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So that way, yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This was what I was asking our engineer. It says the topsoil is going to be removed and then stored and then put back over on top. But
Yes.
what he's telling me is, what I heard was, we're just throwing seed on top of the clay with straw. So what happened to the topsoil?
And I was asking Mr. Reeves about that during, when Mr. Cortez mentioned that. And my understanding is that if you're familiar with Las Casas, which I grew out in Milton, there hadn't been as much topsoil as they were expecting to encounter. So there's just been very little topsoil at all.
Well, but grass is not going to grow on subterranean clay,
And that's where the mulch is coming in. The mulch is put down, and hoping with the effort of making sure that will be a better way to get the topsoil to grow. And that appears to be being successful. But the goal of the project is that 6 months after the project is complete, we want the land to appear undisturbed. Next slide, please. This is a photograph. This photograph was taken in July of 2018, showing a reclaimed area that had been excavated from 2014 to 2015. Next slide. No blasting occurs during this project. Dump trucks and service trucks involved in the project are prohibited from entering or exiting through any residential neighborhood. And of course, excavation occurs only during daylight hours. Next slide. All borrow pits are set back at least 150 feet from all residential property lines, and applicants will continue to use extensive efforts to prevent dust, erosion, and air pollution. Next slide, please. And of course, the BZA retains extensive oversight of this project, At the end of each permitting period, we're required to come back before the BZA to request an extension. A permitting period is 6 months with the potential of a 3-month administrative extension, and this allows the BZA to continue to police the applicant's fulfillment of their commitments and obligations to the board, to the county, and to their neighbors. And I think Mr. Reeves wanted to talk a little bit about the reclamation questions you all had. If that's acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions while Ted's up here?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Reeves?
Chairman, Commission members, I wanted to clarify a couple of situations that were brought up. We've had a learning process in that when we started this project, the way we were going to do this was put down straw and seed and some of the topsoil back, but we've learned from experience that the topsoil was in some areas was very, very thin and not something we could use. When we were putting the straw down and the seed down, and we've encountered for the last 6 months the monsoons that we've had, our seed and straw would just all end up in one big pile. It was just blowing and washing. So we have found through a good neighbor, Middle Tennessee Electric, is providing us with an unlimited amount of mulch. So we're taking this mulch and spreading it over the areas that are excavated. We're putting the seed into the mulch, and then we're packing it down with a roller. And this, we feel like it's going to be a very, very better process. We're going to get better growth and a better looking project. But we just had a bad experience with straw. It's so light, and the wind just blows it away. One other thing I noticed that we're actually staying 200 feet away from the Riverwalk subdivision instead of 150. So I can show you, I brought this little thing to give our chairman here. Our monthly averages of dirt delivered have been really way, way off compared to what it's been in the past. Since August of last year, Mr. Chairman, this will show you the actual amount of dirt is probably less than half of what we normally deliver because of the weather and the and the haul road. We have not been able to use our haul road to deliver the dirt. So I've got a few copies of this. I'll drop off on the way back to my seats. Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else who can speak to this? Close the public hearing. I've been following this for a long time, and I guess, Jerry, you have too. Some of you that have been here for some time. And I know it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But we remember, one thing that this does is it keeps all of these trucks off of the roads up there, and it provides access to the landfill, directly to the landfill, and they're going to have this kind of dirt in order to cover it and hopefully to keep the smell down. I hope that it would. I don't know if, I'm not a scientist on that, but it does have that strength and complete access without getting on the roads, and they've got to get it from somewhere. I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, I asked a lot of hard questions. I hope that wasn't taken negatively, but we've talked about the reclamation before, and I'll take our county engineer's word that they are making a good effort on that and looking for solutions where they're trying. And that all being said, I'd make a motion to approval.
Have a second?
Can we just include an additional condition that a meeting is set up prior to the effective date between the applicant and county officials?
That would be agreeable to my motion.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Joe Machoto,
Yes?
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
and Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Do we have any other business?
No, sir.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.